What is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot of volleyball to discuss this week, such as the Olympics in Paris are this week. It is that time, ladies and gentlemen. It is time to see who will be winning the gold and who will be taking bronze and silver. But gold is more important, because I'll be previewing the indoor on the women's and men's side, and a little bit of beach as well. Also, we'll be discussing a little bit of pro volleyball free agency, as there were some notable free agent signings. Nothing too groundbreaking, as the Olympics are probably going to take away the spotlight from the PVF. But also, there were a couple of U.S. teams that wound up winning gold and silver this past weekend. And the U.S. men's Olympic team had their friendly match against Poland in Poland. Did they perform well? And will they be ready for the Olympics? And the volleyball. Set the next. I'm about to trigger up some volleyball action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on iSports Radio. Your direct feed, all that is sports. And welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday evening, Monday afternoon, Monday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way to episode 256 of Set Point. And without any further delay, let's begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without iSports Radio providing the platform to go live on StreamYard. Please do follow iSports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, especially Facebook, and on TikTok. And we are also active on other podcast platforms such as Apple Podcast, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music /Audible, Castbox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, JioSaavn. The list goes on and on. For the last 10 years, iSports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making iSports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out our website, iSportsRadio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our merchandise shop, where you can cop some t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies for the winter, as well as get some other iSports Radio swag, such as some stickers and whatnot. And also, we have pages dedicated to each podcast, such as Set Point. And the way you can follow Set Point on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at @set_point_IE, and on Instagram at @set_point_IESR. I'm also on Facebook as well, or Set Point's also on Facebook. And the way you can follow me on social media, my main account is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Teran Rodriguez1. And before we get on going, let us introduce our sponsors, Plant Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, and Seal the Deal Wax Seals. They are the two official sponsors of iSports Radio, and they help keep the lights on. So without any further delay, let's see what they're all about.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky and Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. We appreciate them for being the official sponsors of IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And without any further delay, let's get on into that volleyball action. So we have to address what needs to be addressed this week. The Olympics are this week, and boy howdy, I am excited. They start this Saturday. And depending on what time you're at or where you're at in the world, it's going to be so amazing. It's going to be a barn burner. So when it comes to the men's and women's side of things, it's two totally different sides of the aspect. I mean, there's a lot of talent on both sides, and anyone could really win the gold medal for the most part. So let's go over the men's side of things. So Pool A is consisted of France, Slovenia, Canada, and Serbia. You got Pool B with Poland, Italy, Brazil, and Egypt. And then Pool C, you've got Japan, the US, Argentina, and Germany. So starting off with Pool A, France is the reigning gold medalist from last year, but they've got some stiff competition. Slovenia is definitely a contender. Canada also a pretty solid team, and Serbia also definitely good. France is definitely as good as advertised. But you can't sleep on Slovenia. They just can't have another VNL blunder like they did, obviously, back in the VNL. And then Canada also is a good team. I kind of picked Canada to come out of pool play. And Serbia as well. Serbia also is a good team. But I just think that they're not going to keep up with the Joneses in this pool. Jen B says, have a great show. I appreciate you, Jen. And then Ralph Cleese also says, have a great show. Let's go. I appreciate you both for tuning in. So back to Pool A. It's going to be a very tough pool to come out of. The top two teams in each pool obviously emerge out of pool play and they advance to the gold medal round. And then everyone else is left in the dust. Now, something I did not realize is that obviously there are a few teams that teams have to face, but the gold medal round will actually take 2 third-place teams. Yes, 2 third-place teams, which means if you get third place in your pool, you have a slight chance of making it to the gold medal round. It's not the greatest chance in the world, but you still have a chance. So you might be what I think the terminology is called lucky loser or something of that sort, but you have to get third place. So top 2 is a guarantee. And then third place is basically rolling the dice to see if you will come out on top out of pool play. So I think for Pool A, obviously France is the favorite, but Slovenia is nipping at their heels. Canada is also a good team. They're definitely my dark horse, and they're probably my only upset pick when it comes to making it out of Pool A. Now for Pool B, you've got Poland, which is number 1 in the nation. I guess I should also make note of the rankings. So France is number 4 in the nation, even though they're the host team. Slovenia is number 5. Canada is number 9 in the nation, and Serbia is number 10. This is all courtesy of volleyballworld.com. And then for Pool B, on the men's side, you got Poland, which is number 1 in the nation, Italy, which is number 3 in the nation, Brazil, number 7 in the nation, and Egypt, which is number 19 in the nation. So you're probably wondering, why is Egypt ranked 19th when there are other good teams that should have been there? I mean, 12 through 18 unfortunately did not make it, which is Cuba, Netherlands, Ukraine, Iran, Belgium, Turkey, and Czech Republic. But Egypt did win a automatic qualifier tournament into the Olympics, so they won that tournament, and they automatically, it wasn't VNL. Unfortunately, I'm kind of blanking on the automatic qualifier name, and it wasn't was it the Challenge Cup? I don't think. No, it wasn't the Challenge Cup. But regardless, they wound up winning a automatic qualifier tournament, and they are in the Olympics. So Egypt is kind of the oddball out. No offense to Egypt. Obviously, it's definitely something if you make the Olympics, and if you make the Olympics, that's an accomplishment of itself. But in the pool that they're in, Poland, Italy, and Brazil, it's a brutal pool right there. Thank you, Davidson Crooks, for tuning in. Hit that like button. Definitely do what my boy Davidson Crooks said. I appreciate you for tuning in. But the talent that Egypt has to face is so brutal. So for Poland, they're number 1 in the nation, but they definitely have a little bit of vulnerability. They're not invincible, but they're also playing at a high level as of late. Italy is also playing really good. I mean, they didn't trot out their A team in the VNL championship round. They obviously trotted out their B team just to preserve the A team for the Olympics. And then Brazil is obviously Brazil. Now, this is probably I wouldn't say this in a disrespectful way, but this is probably one of their more down years or their weaker years when it comes to the Olympics. But Brazil is definitely Brazil. They're definitely still up there in talent. I just think Poland and Italy are going to come out on top. But Brazil could be the lucky loser or the third place team that gets into the gets into the gold medal round. So I think for Brazil, you just can't sleep on them, but you also I wouldn't really call them the team to beat. So we'll see what happens. But all in all, that's probably the pool of death right there. I mean, I think you could go back and forth between Pool A and Pool B, because Pool B obviously has the odd man out in Egypt. Pool A is a top 10 pool in terms of like rankings. Now for Pool C, this one is a little tricky. So you've got Japan, which is the top seed. They're number 2 in the nation. The US is number 6 in the nation. Argentina is number 8 in the nation, and Germany is number 11 in the nation. So for the US, obviously all eyes are on them. They definitely qualified for the Olympics back last calendar year. I think it was like around this time. I think it was like in August, right before I interviewed John Sparrow on my show, but I digress. But for the U.S., they're going to be facing a tough Japan team. That's going to be a very uphill climb for them. Argentina is also a very scrappy team, and Germany gave the U.S. all they could handle in the VNL. But I think for the U.S., I hope they can definitely rise to the occasion. They have a lot of veteran experience, but the problem is that they kind of lack the young, fresh legs. But that doesn't mean they're not going to be anywhere short of talent. Oh, no. I think the U.S. definitely can come to play. My only thing is, can they keep up with the high level of talent, and can they serve and pass tough? Like, the passing is definitely going to be something that needs to be on full display against Japan, because Japan serves the you-know-what out of that ball. And then you can't sleep on Germany and Argentina, because those are two scrappy teams. I definitely think the U.S. can make it out of pool play as in terms of being in the top 2. But for them, everyone's going to need to be all hands on deck. It can't just be Matt Anderson carrying the load. They got to have TJ DeFalco stepping up as well. He's no stranger to the Olympics. Micah Ma obviously is going to do great at the setter position. Then you've got Eric Shoji at the libero position, who is a defensive dynamo. So all in all for the U.S., they're going to have their work cut out, but I definitely think that they can make it out of pool play in the top 2. So Larry says in the nation. So yeah, Japan is number 2 in the nation, and the U.S. is number 6 in the nation. So I think that's what he's referencing. So yeah, in the nation. So when I basically say Japan is number 2 in the nation, that means they are number 2 in the nation. This is courtesy of USA Volleyball Rankings and or well as the most recent ranking. So okay. Larry says, shouldn't it be in the world? Yeah, I get the nation and the world thing a little mixed up. I'm just so used to calling it nation just because of like the NCAA and then high school and whatnot. But yeah, it should be world rankings. I get the nation and the world rankings. So yeah, should be world rankings. And yeah, thank you, Larry B. I appreciate that. But yeah, these are world rankings according to Volleyball World. So yeah. So yeah, that's my bad for calling it nation, but world, nation, universe, or not universe. Universe, galaxy, you name it. So it's the number 1 in the world, in the universe, the everything. So my whole takeaway for the men's side of things is this: it's going to be a brutal bloodbath. I think no team is safe. Any team can beat any team, even Egypt, maybe, because Egypt has nothing left to lose, and they are basically the lower team in the world. In terms of the world rankings, like I said, they're number 19. Serbia, they're number 10, but they're a very deadly number 10 team. And then Germany is number 11, but I think the biggest mistake would be sleeping on them because they did not do too bad in the VNL. It's just that they unfortunately had some rough luck in pool play, and their cards were just dealt a bad hand. But the only top 2 team I don't think can make it out or would have to be the lucky loser would be Slovenia. I just feel that Canada has a little bit more firepower when it comes to their team, and I feel that they have yet to unleash their true potential. And the same can be said for the U.S. I'll be discussing the U.S.'s friendly match against Poland a little later, but let's discuss the women's side of things. So the Pool A, we have France, which is the host team. They're number 19th in the world. Then you got the U.S., which is number 5 in the world. China is number 6 in the world, and Serbia is number 9 in the world. So France is technically the top overall seed of this tournament, just because, they're not number 1 in the world, but they're the number 1 seed in pool play just because they're the host team. So France, it's so tough to really gauge on how good they'll really be because, they're nowhere near the top 10, let alone the top 15. But the thing is that they are the host team, and they definitely have a lot to prove, and they definitely want to put on for their home nation. And then for the U.S., they're number 5 in the nation. They are the reigning gold medalists, but I don't know if they're the favorites to win it all, just because the U.S. definitely they have their flaws in terms of like service errors and hitting errors. And my biggest concern is attrition. Will Jordan Larson be ready to go when it comes to the Olympics? Will their opposites be consistent in Annie Drews and Jordan Thompson? I definitely think they have consistency and they have talent, but it's all about putting everything together when it truly matters. And then China is definitely going to be a very tough team. They definitely showed a lot of flash in the VNL. And then Serbia is my team that could definitely give the U.S. fits, because in past VNLs, Serbia has definitely really frustrated the U.S. They've really come to play against the U.S. I don't know what it is about Serbia playing the U.S. in terms of like tournaments, but the U.S. really has to play their A game against Serbia. So the whole Pool A is, other than France, I think that could be the whole case of 3 teams finishing 2-1. I think the U.S., China, and Serbia could beat each other up, and they'd all be 2-1, and it could depend on who. I wouldn't be surprised if all 3 of those teams, if they all finish 2-1, they all would advance out of pool play, because, like I said, if you're a third place team, you could be one of the 2 of the 3 third place teams advance, depending on what your record is. So it all depends on what your record shows and what the points are all about. So that's Pool A. Pool B is Brazil, number 2 in the world, Poland, number 4 in the world, Japan, number 7 in the world, and then Kenya is number 20 in the world. So Kenya is another case of them winning an automatic qualifier tournament, and then that put them through to the Olympics. Now, just because Kenya is number 20 in the nation does not mean they're going to be a pushover. I think they can definitely make noise, but you look at their pool, it's all top 10 teams. Brazil is definitely deadly, especially with Julia Bergman blooming rapidly. Poland is still playing at a high level, and then Japan is coming off of a second place finish against said Poland team. So I think Japan is definitely going to be a very scrappy and hungry team. Poland obviously is going to be dangerous, and then Brazil, they're Brazil. There's nothing more to be said. So that's probably the pool of death right there if you're Kenya. So I hate to say that, but I just feel that Kenya is going to be in a very, very tough gauntlet. And then Pool C, you've got Italy, which is number 1 in the nation. Turkey, number 3. Or I'm sorry, number 1 in the world. Italy is number 1 in the world. Turkey is number 3 in the world. Netherlands is number 8 in the world. And Dominican Republic is number 11 in the world. In the world. No more of this in the nation thing, but I digress. All right, so for Italy, they're going to be a very they're very tough. There's a reason why they wound up winning the VNL, not Poland. My apologies, but there's a reason why Italy wound up winning the VNL, and they only dropped 1 set in the knockout round. Just 1 set. 1 set, I tell ye. But Italy is very good as advertised. If Karchkarai says that they're definitely going to be a deadly team to watch for, then you know they are a team to watch for. So, and then Turkey, in my opinion, they were number 1 at the time, and then they kind of had a little bit of some bumps and bruises, which included a reverse sweep at the hands of, I think it was either Japan or China. Regardless, that was in VNL play, and Turkey just unfortunately had a little bit of snake bit plum bad luck right there. Netherlands, I saw Netherlands. They can be very scrappy, especially when running the middle. They can be very swift in the middle. They've also got 2 returners from their 2016 Rio Olympic team. I really think that Netherlands is a very sneaky team. Felix Kozlowski definitely has his team trending in the right direction. It's just all about if they can really get their you-know-what together and they play their best volleyball when it truly matters. And then the Dominican Republic, just because they're the number 11 team in the world and they're the bottom seed in their pool does not mean they're bad by any means. I really think Dominican Republic can show their true flash. And Dominican Republic has some talented teams, and they even have some reps from playing, dare I say it, the U21 team, the U21 teams in terms of a tournament. But I think Dominican Republic is definitely a very talented. They're definitely talented. They're under the radar. They're not flashy and splashy like Italy, the U.S., Turkey, Brazil, Poland, China, or any of those other teams that are ranked ahead of them. But they definitely are up there in terms of talent. They're definitely not a team to be underestimating. And I feel that this is a team that could at least win 1 pool play game. So my whole takeaway for the women's side of things is this. Well, you first and foremost have to feel so bad for Canada. Canada is actually number 10 in the world, but they're not in the Olympics. Oh, that's got to be brutal for Canada. Yet Dominican Republic is number 11 and they're in the Olympics. It's a matter of points and automatic qualifiers and whatnot. So unfortunately for Canada, it's a whole better luck next year, and hopefully we'll see you at the LA Olympics. But this whole pool, anybody can win. Okay, maybe not everybody, but there are a lot of storylines when it comes to everyone's pool. France is the host team, and they have a lot to prove. The U.S. are the reigning gold medalists. They have quite a bit to prove. China is young and hungry, and they'll look to reach the gold medal. I think they last won in 2016 or 12. And then Serbia is a young and talented team that has given the U.S. fits, and they could rear themselves out of pool play. And then for Pool B, Brazil obviously is very talented all across the board. Poland, another really good team. Japan, coming off of a great VNL finish, and then Kenya looking to prove everybody wrong and making everybody eat crow. And then Pool C, the storylines are Italy, number 1 in the world, looking to win the gold medal and build off of that VNL championship. Turkey looking to prove to everybody why they're a top 3 team and why they deserve to be number 1 in the world. Netherlands also out there to prove themselves why they're a top 10 team and why they qualified for the Olympics and why they can make the top 4 or finish in the top 4 for the first time since the 2016 Rio Olympics. And then the Dominican Republic, a young, feisty, talented team that's had a lot of reps the past few weeks. So that's basically my storylines for Pool A, B, and C on the women's side of things. I definitely think this is going to be very fun to watch, and I can't wait to see the action. I also should make note of the U.S. Beach Olympic Volleyball Rankings. So on the women's side, Teran Rodriguez and Kristen Nuss are number 2 in the world, and then Kelly Cheng and Sarah Hughes are number 3 in the world. That's on the women's side. On the men's side of things, Miles Partain and Andy Benish are sixth in the world, and then Miles Evans and Chase Budinger are 13th in the world. So in terms of the beach volleyball rankings, my gut tells me on the women's side of things, the odds of my percentage level of the U.S. women's pairs winning a gold medal is probably, let's say, 75%. Just because Brazil has 2 teams that are top 5 in the world, and then you've also got the Canadians, Melissa Humana-Paredes and Brandy Wilkerson, that are also in the top 5 that are representing Canada. But I'm confident in Teran Rodriguez and Kristen Nuss. They definitely have that team chemistry that they've had since LSU. I'm also definitely confident in Sarah Hughes and Kelly Cheng. They've had that team chemistry since their USC days. So I'm definitely confident in both of them. Now, on the men's side, it's not as confident as I would think. So Miles Partain and Andy Benish, like I said, they're 6th in the world. Miles Evans and Chase Budinger, 13th in the world. If I had to give a percentage on them winning gold or at least medaling, okay, well, winning gold, I give it like a 10% chance. And that's not me being negative. It's just that both of those pairs are making their Olympic debut. And then them not being in the top 5 kind of scares me. Then medaling, I give it like a 35% chance. And for the women's pairs, or for the women's U.S. pairs, gold medaling, or medaling in general, I give them at least one pair, I'd give it like a 90%. The only way I think that the U.S. pairs in beach volleyball don't reach the medal round or they don't medal is if they have such a bad run in terms of like pool play and in terms of like the knockout round, or they just lose in the quarterfinals beforehand. So, and then if both pairs make it to the semifinals, then there's going to be at least one pair medaling. But I'm just not as confident on the men's side as I am on the women's side. But maybe I'll be wrong and maybe I'll be eating crow. So we'll see what happens. But that's going to basically do it for the Olympic volleyball preview. We're going to take ourselves a quick break because, oh my goodness, we are almost 30 minutes into this thing. When we come back, we've got a little bit of Pro Volleyball Federation to discuss, and then we've got some other U.S. teams that played this past weekend, and we also have the U.S. men's Olympic team to discuss in their friendly match against Poland. So keep it locked here. You are listening to Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Are you a fan of Buffalo sports? Are you thinking of changing loyalties and becoming a Buffalo sports fan? Do you even know where Buffalo is on the map? Did you know Canada is closer to Buffalo than New York City? Welcome to the Buffalo Huddle, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Patty Bax. This is a podcast designed for you, the passionate sports fan. I know you love your sports. Who doesn't? I cover Buffalo sports and so much more by bringing in the human elements. I call it Buffalo sports with a twist. Join me as we take a journey into the world of Buffalo sports. I guarantee you'll fall in love with Buffalo just like I did. Each week we start with an inspiration, question of the day, a Buffalo fun fact, and our weekly challenge to you, the listener. Come huddle up with me every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time for the Buffalo Huddle with Patty Bax on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. As we say in Buffalo, go Bills!
And welcome back to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as the Buffalo Huddle with Patty Bax and Let's Whine About DMV Sports with Mike Pat. And again, I guess I should also mention, because nobody circles the wagons better than those Buffalo Bills. But with all that being said, let's get back on into the volleyball action. So I actually forgot to mention the pool play format. So day one will be 2 seed versus 3 seed, and then 1 seed versus 4 seed. That's on day one. Now for day two, you've got 1 seed versus 3 seed, and then 2 seed versus 4 seed. And then day 3, or the final day of pool play, you've got 1 seed versus 2 seed, and then 3 seed versus 4 seed. So I kind of forgot to mention that. I apologize in regards to that. I put that down as a mental note right there, but I digress. So that's pretty much that for all of the pool play formats that's for indoor. And I want to say that's probably for the same way for sitting volleyball as well as beach volleyball, but I digress. But enough about the Olympic volleyball. We'll circle around to that a little bit later. Right now, we've got some Pro Volleyball Federation to discuss. So it's been a little bit quiet as of recent, but we still have some notable free agents that pretty much were signed last week or that I didn't really discuss. So a player that was re-signed was Kaz Brown, middle blocker, former Kentucky standout. She re-signed to the Orlando Valkyries. Now, that's a good thing just because she definitely was a solid middle blocker in the Pro Volleyball Federation. And honestly, I think that Kaz Brown is going to do great things for the Valkyries. I definitely think she has upside, and she was definitely one of the brighter spots for the Valkyries. Another player that Orlando managed to sign was former USC standout Brittany Abercrombie. Now, Abercrombie was part of that Mick Haley team that was back when he used to coach at USC. The team that I definitely think could have won the national championship back in 2000, and I think it was 15, but unfortunately they didn't, as they lost to Kansas in the quarterfinals, and we never got to see USC see the light of day ever again. Sorry to USC fans. But Brittany Abercrombie definitely has a lot of upside. She was on that same team that featured Kalia Lanier. I want to say, I forget her name. It was Elise Ford, who was at USC until she transferred to Arizona State. But you know what I mean. And then I also had, I forget her first name. It was like, I remember the libero. It's Victoria something. Victoria, I'm blanking on her last name, but she's a mental health advocate, and she's just she's phenomenal and awesome. But Abercrombie, I think, is going to be a great addition for Orlando, especially since they lost Jill Gillant to the Columbus Fury. So there's that right there for Orlando. And then for other notable free agents, the Grand Rapids Rise signed libero Jenna Otek, who is a former Purdue standout. I think this is a pretty solid signing, if you ask me. I feel that the libero position is probably going to be a competitive dogfight for the Grand Rapids Rise, because they've actually done a lot of signing when it comes to that position in terms of the libero and defensive specialist position. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kathy George had a major decision on her hands on who she wants to start in week 1. And then for the San Diego Mojo, they signed Reagan Pittman, a former middle blocker from Minnesota. I think this is a good sign just because Reagan Pittman definitely has that it factor when it comes to the middle, and she definitely plays a lot of good defense, not just at the net, but sometimes in serve receive too, or especially when passing the ball. So I definitely think the Mojo could use her. And this is interesting just because Reagan Pittman actually thought she was going to pretty much call it quits when it came to the sport of volleyball and start coaching. But ever since the Pro Volleyball Federation came out with their new league, as well as League One Volleyball, or LOVB, Reagan Pittman had a massive change of heart, and she decided to get back to playing volleyball, which I think is great, just because I feel playing at the collegiate level took a toll on her, but I definitely think that Reagan Pittman is going to make a great addition for the San Diego Mojo. And then the last notable standout that was signed to a Pro Volleyball Federation team was Courtney Bazzario. She signed with the Atlanta Vibe. I'm sorry. I don't know why I said Rise, but the Atlanta Vibe. Now, this is a very good signing, and this seems to be the Atlanta Vibes seem to really get all these big-time names. Now, obviously, getting all the big-time names is great and all, but it has to translate to a championship team, which I feel Atlanta definitely can contend. Now, obviously, they made it all the way to the semifinals, only to lose to the Grand Rapids Rise in 5. But that was also partially because Magda Yelasheva, the former Washington State middle blocker, who was a freaking beast at the net, and I think she's the all-time blocks leader in NCAA history, but I digress. But I just think that Magda Yelasheva getting hurt did not do the Atlanta Vibe a lot of favors. But getting back to the Courtney Bazzario signing, I think this is a very good signing. She can also play setter in addition to her opposite position. And I definitely think the Vibe really struck gold with this. Now, she's obviously played overseas, and she actually was supposed to be a nurse after her volleyball career at Pitt following Iowa. She actually was supposed to go into nursing, but now she is back playing volleyball. So I think the nursing thing will be taking a little bit of a backseat for the time being. But it's always good to have nursing as a backup plan, just because you have to have that thing. You have to have that career to fall back on once volleyball is all said and done. But Courtney Bazzario signing with the Atlanta Vibe is so big right there. It definitely gives the Vibe a lot of height at the net, and it gives them a lot of good options. They can even run a 6-2 with Courtney Bazzario. So I think this signing is an A-plus signing, and the vibe are definitely going to be up there, especially with the likes of Reagan. Oh, no, I know Rutherford is still playing Texas. Leah Edmond. I'm getting the Kentucky players mixed up. So Leah Edmond, you got Morgan Hentz returning at libero. Magda Yelasheva should be back. So we'll see what happens with the Atlanta Vibe next year. I still think they and the Omaha Supernovas are still on a crash course to face one another in the championship, but I digress in that regard. But that's going to basically do it for the Pro Volleyball Federation portion of the show. I know it was a little short, but the free agency seems to be quieting down for the time being. But soon we'll have more free agency. I just feel that the Olympics are probably going to be stealing the spotlight from the Pro Volleyball Federation, but I'll be giving you all the updates from the Pro Volleyball Federation. That will be featuring 8 teams next year. Unfortunately, Kansas City and Dallas will not be part of the new rotation when it comes to the Pro Volleyball Federation in its roster lineup next year, but it is what it is. All right, but that's going to do it for the Pro Volleyball Federation portion of the show. We're going to take ourselves one last break, but when we come back, we've got some U.S. U19 Girls Volleyball to discuss, as well as some U.S. Men's National Team to discuss, and the U.S. Olympic Team to discuss. So keep it locked here. You are listening to Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
It's IE Sports Radio. It is your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris every Tuesday night right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris is the most comprehensive view on Philadelphia sports exclusively right here on IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tuesday night, IE Sports Radio, Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Carney, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we are back for the final segment of Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as Philly Sports Talk with Bobby Cash and Chris Amos, and Chi-Town Weekly with Adam Carnick that goes live 1 hour before this show does primarily. But with all that said and done, let's get back into the volleyball action. This will be the last segment of the show, as we don't have too much to discuss, as, again, we're kind of in that dead period when it comes to volleyball, but it is what it is. So let's discuss a little bit of some US U19 girls volleyball, as they were in action last weekend and in the 2024 NESECA Continental Championship, and they wound up winning golds, and they only dropped one set all tournament, which I think is pretty incredible. So July 14th, which was last Tuesday, they were, I think it was last Tuesday. Regardless, July 14th, they took on Cuba. They swept Cuba 25-8, 25-11, and 25-21. Then on July 15th, they took on Canada, swept them 25-19, 25-13, and 25-15. And then they closed out pool play against Puerto Rico, where they swept them 25-20, 25-16, and 25-22. So solid start for the U.S. U19 Girls Volleyball Team. They got a bye in the quarterfinals, so they advanced to the semifinals, where they took down Puerto Rico again, 25-21, 25-22, and 25-16. Then the gold medal match, they wound up taking down Canada in a nice little barn burner, as they wound up winning it in 4 sets, 25-17, 20-25, 26-24, and 25-14 to clinch the gold. And Jen B said it best, way to go, U19. So as for the notable award winners, Audrey Flanagan, Genevieve Harris, and I'm going to probably butcher this girl's last name, but Manaya Obechi, they all received honors. So Audrey Flanagan, who we all know, as I kind of discussed her a couple episodes ago, she was named the best server, best receiver, and best outside of the tournament, which I thought was pretty darn incredible right there. And she's committed to Wisconsin. So Badger fans, once she gets reunited with Charlie Furbringer, it's going to be fireworks. And then as for Genevieve Harris, she was actually named the best setter, as she's actually committed to Texas. So Longhorn fans, you've got another great setter on your hands. Obviously, you have Ella Swindle currently, but you're going to have another setter. So you're going to be set for the next few years. And fun fact about her, she's actually from Cardinal Gibbons, North Carolina. And like I said, she's committed to Texas. And then Manaya Obechi, she was named the tournament's MVP, and she was named the best blocker. And she, believe it or not, she's actually committed to Nebraska, which is no surprise. Now, if you're from California, and this is something I did not know, she's actually from Oaks Christian, and she is a baller. I definitely think she's going to do great things for Oaks Christian, and hopefully, and maybe I can catch a match when it comes to Oaks Christian, but I don't know. That's in the Westlake Village area, but I did not know Manaya Obechi was committed to Nebraska until I saw the final, and then I'm like, oh my goodness, this girl is going. She was just dynamite. She just thumped that ball down really amazingly, and she was great at the net. She was great at the net overall. So I think Manaya Obechi is going to be really talented. She is going to do great things for Oaks Christian, and she's eventually going to do great things for Nebraska. The rich get richer, as I always say. And then, as I mentioned, Audrey Flanagan is from Miracosta High School. I'm looking forward to seeing what she can do. It's going to be tough, though, just because my schedule kind of coincides with Miracosta's schedule. But who knows? Maybe I can catch one match. I'll probably see Miracosta at the Redondo Power Classic before the postseason. So we'll see what happens. But congratulations to the entire U.S. U19 Girls Volleyball Team on winning the 2024 NOSECA Continental Championship. And again, they only dropped 1 set all tournament, which is pretty incredible. That was in the championship match to Canada. Jamie Morrison was the head coach of the U.S. U19 Girls Team, as he's the head coach of Texas A&M, the team that wound up making the NCAA tournament. So the U.S. U19 Girls Team was definitely in great hands. And their assistant was Keegan Cook, who is the head coach of Minnesota. So that is that for the U.S. U19 girls team. So jumping over to the U.S. men's national team. So it's the national team, but it's not the Olympic team. So got to get that out of the way right there. But the national team wound up winning silver at the 2024 NORCECA Pan Am Cup. So in pool play, they wound up beating Puerto Rico in 4 sets, 25-21, 25-18, 29-31, and 25-18. Then they beat Mexico in 4 sets, 25-19, 23-25, 25-20, and 25-18. Then they dropped one pool play match to Canada as they wound up losing a 5-set heartbreaker, 19-25, 25-20, 25-27, 25-23, and 25-19. They still qualified for the knockout round, but they kind of had to go the long way as they did not get a bye to the quarterfinals. They had to play in the quarterfinals against Chile, where they swept them 25-23, 25-14, and 25-15. I'm sorry, that was in pool play. So that wasn't the pool play concluder. Chile was the pool play concluder, where they wound up finishing 3-0, or they wound up finishing 3-1 with a 3-0 sweep over Chile. So the actual quarterfinals was Dominican Republic, where they swept them 25-19, 25-21, and 25-20. Then the semifinals, they outlasted Cuba in a 5-set barn burner, 25-15, 23-25, 25-23, 24-26, and 15-11. That was definitely a barn burner. And Cuba always has some good teams, dude. Like, their young teams are also young and spry and hungry. So it's no surprise that they wound up going 5, but I digress. Then the gold medal match, which was yesterday. Unfortunately, they fell in 4 sets to a talented Canada team. The first set was 26-24, which was a tough set loss right there. It also got tougher when they lost the second set, 26-24 again. So the U.S. just could not buy a break, even if it was on sale at the discount rack at Chippendales. But I digress. And then in set 3, the U.S. wound up winning that one 28-26. They kind of got a big break right there, even though it wasn't discounted. But in the 4th set, they just kind of ran out of gas. They fell behind 9-4. They got the lead down to as little as 3. They were down 17-14, but Canada wound up reeling off 3 in a row to basically put some separation between the U.S. and Canada. So tough loss right there, tough end to that tournament. But it's actually the U.S.'s best tournament finish since 2014, where they also wound up winning silver. Even though gold is the big goal right there, silver isn't bad, especially since Canada is still very talented, and some of these players were are just recently removed from college, and some might even still be in college, aka a certain someone from UCLA that I'm about to talk about. But I digress. But Canada does repeat as gold medalists from the 2024 NORCECA Pan Am Cup. So congratulations to Canada, and a great effort from the U.S. So some U.S. standouts that stood out to me from the U.S. was Gabby Garcia, who played opposite. He's a former BYU star. Mason Briggs was a fantastic libero. He actually had 19 digs in the championship match. Oh, man, if only that was a win for the U.S. 19 digs from Mason just goes to show he is ready for the pros. And he's ready to be on the U.S. Olympic team, maybe in the 2028 Olympics or beyond. But we'll see. Cooper Robinson, the one player that is probably coming back for UCLA next year, he was definitely a standout. Daniel Wetter, middle blocker from CSUN, formerly of CSUN, he was also a standout. And then Quinn Isaacson, setter, formerly of Ball State, he was a standout for the U.S. as well. So I definitely think the U.S. has a great future ahead of them. And then I also got to give a little love to Ethan Champlin and Merrick McHenry as well. The U.S. definitely has a bright future ahead of them. And once the old guys basically step away from the national team or the Olympic team, those guys are going to be ready and willing. And also, Andy Reid did a great job of coaching those boys to the championship match. Andy Reid is the assistant coach for Long Beach State's men's volleyball team for the Allen Knight, former Set Point guest. So there's that right there for the U.S. men's national team, earning silver. Solid accomplishment, if you ask me. Oh, no, not this again. Not this again. Sorry about that. My camera doing the whole glitchy thing. But that's that for the U.S. men's national team. So one last thing to go over, and then I will send you all on your way, is that the U.S. men's Olympic team, so the U.S. men's Olympic team, we're actually going to quickly modify that momentarily. But the U.S. men's volleyball Olympic team managed to play a nice little friendly match against Poland. And it was rather eventful, if you ask me. And thank you to Alden, aka Alden K, aka Always Arizona Sports, for tuning in, for popping into the chat room. He says, "Sup, man?" Hey, thank you for tuning in, Alden. His show is on Fridays at 1 p.m. Pacific time. He had a great debut show. I will just say that. Definitely check out AZ Sports Zone. It's a great show, and also follow him on X, follow him on his Twitter. But back to the U.S. Olympic team that played a nice little friendly match against number 1 ranked Poland. They traveled all the way to Poland to play Poland. Unfortunately, the scoreboard doesn't really reflect it, but they played them tough. Unfortunately, the U.S. wound up dropping a 5-set heartbreaker. The U.S. wound up winning the first set 25-18, and they won the second set 25-23, but lost the third set in so dramatic fashion, 28-26, and then they dropped the fourth set 25-22, and in the fifth set, the U.S. ran out of gas. They just could not recover. They wound up losing the fifth set 15-8. It's okay, though. It's a friendly match. U.S. fans, don't panic too much. It's just a friendly match. And the fact that they even took the number 1 team in the nation to 5 in a friendly match, on the road, mind you, is still pretty good, if you ask me. So I think for the U.S., unfortunately, I tried to print out the stats. They didn't really all come out. I'm going to have a nice little talk with my printer. But look, first and foremost, why wasn't this televised? Like, at least having it on Baller TV would have been great. But unfortunately, there was no ultimate promotion of this. I'm looking at you, Poland and U.S. But the U.S. kind of has an excuse, hence the word kinda. They had other teams partaking in tournaments like the U.S. U19 team and the U.S. men's national team, a.k.a. the Young Guns. So I can kind of understand why there was no promotion and updates on this, but I will say the U.S. going 5 isn't bad. I just wish they didn't get reverse swept. If they were down 0-2 and then they tied it up at 2-2, but eventually wound up losing 2-3, I think I'd be singing a whole different tune. But getting reverse swept, that's tough. But that's not bad. I think the U.S. is still trying to figure things out. Matt Anderson was obviously Matt Anderson. He led the way for the U.S. I can confirm that right there and then. TJ Falco also had himself a nice little game right there. It's just all about if the U.S. can really put it all together come the Olympics. I think the U.S. has a lot of upside. I definitely think they have a lot of experience on their side. It's just all about can they keep up with the other talented teams. But I definitely think that the Olympics are going to answer a lot of questions. And this friendly match was definitely all they needed, especially since the Olympics are this week. And that whole little friendly match comes at a great time. I mean, yes, it's a quick turnaround to Paris, but I think the U.S. is going to get enough rest and recovery to the point where I think they'll be ready for the Olympics come this week. But other than that, that's going to basically do it for the U.S. Olympic team portion of the show regarding their friendly match against Poland in Poland. This occurred yesterday, so obviously it was a busy day for everybody, especially for the USA volleyball and whatnot. But on that note, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. It is time to drop the beat because I'm about to dip like a banana in chocolate. You feel me? Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Set Point. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. Shout out to Jen B and everyone else that was in the chat room. I appreciate y'all keeping me on my toes, keeping me crossing my T's and dotting my I's. I appreciate you saying that, Jen B. It means a lot. I will definitely be back next Monday to discuss a lot of Olympic volleyball, as well as, and I'll also be back this Friday to discuss the SoCal Supreme Sports Show and do the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I'm not taking any days off for the most part, but until then, for everyone here at ISO Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have a great rest of the week. Enjoy the Volleyball Olympics. Enjoy all of the Olympics for that matter, just because it only comes every 4 years. But I will see you all on Friday for the SoCal Spring Sports Show. And keep an eye on my tweets, ladies and gentlemen. And maybe keep an eye out for some exclusive content or any volleyball content whatsoever. Have a great rest of the week. Enjoy the Olympics. And I will see you on Friday for the SoCal Spring Sports Show. Peace!